What's up, UX fam? How's your mom and them? Welcome to another episode of Beyond UX Design. I'm Jeremy. If you're new here, welcome to the show. I am super stoked to have you. The Beyond UX Design shop is open. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop to pick up some big, beautiful art prints of some of my favorite UX and software related quotes, or pick up some digital downloads and print them off yourself. Pick up your copy of Beyond UX Design, Master Your Craft, Beyond Pixels and Prototypes. Get free shipping on all orders over $30 and use the code LISTENER to get 10% off your entire order. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/shop to get your print on. This week's episode is brought to you by Wix Studio. If you're thinking about redoing your portfolio or kicking off a new website project, listen up. I've only got 30 seconds to tell you about Wix Studio, the web platform for agencies and enterprises. So here are a few things that you can do from start to finish in 30 seconds or less on Studio. You can adapt your designs for every device with responsive AI, jump seamlessly between front-end and back-end, speed up projects with an AI code assistant, start a design library, and reuse full-stack apps and UI components all across your sites. Time's up, but the list keeps going. Step into Wix Studio and see for yourself. Head on over to beyonduxdesign.com/Wix to start creating today. And if you haven't done it already, please consider subscribing to the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you are a regular here and you feel like you're getting something out of the show, I would really appreciate you leaving a 5-star review. That'll help me out so much. And as always, thanks so much to Chris, Siraquan, Stacy, Radu, Megan, Andrew, John, Mark, Kevin, Jason, Michelle, and Marty for all their support. And if you want to join these fine folks and many others and help keep the show independent, you'll get rough transcripts and exclusive access to the entire video library of episodes, including episodes before they're released. Get instant access right now for as little as $5 a month. And for more information on how you can support the show and help more people find out about what we're doing here, make sure to check out beyonduxdesign.com/support. And of course, if you think the show is worth sharing, then I would love it if you told some friends. So right now is an interesting time in software. And if you had asked me 5 years ago, I would have sworn up and down that my job was secure and I would stay in software forever. That was, of course, before I got laid off twice, and that was before thousands upon thousands of people working in the tech industry were laid off. So what if you won't always have a job in tech? What if you're just done with tech? Or, as Debbie likes to ask, what if tech is done with you? This week, I've got the one and only Debbie Levitt back on the show to talk about her new book, Life After Tech: Redefine Yourself and Discover New Work Opportunities. So, Debbie Levitt, I am so excited to have you back on the show. Repeat guest, joining a very exclusive club. Welcome back to Beyond UX Design. How's it going?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me back. It is absolutely an honor. And how it's going is, strangely enough, that it's going so strangely we need to talk about it.
Exactly. Well, I was going to say, relatively speaking, after I said, how's it going? I was like, well, it'd be a lot better if you didn't have to write this book, I guess.
Yeah,
but here we are.
Seriously.
So we've already had you on the show. We gave you an intro. You don't have to go through that whole spiel again. I wanted to have you on today because you just wrote a book, Life After Tech, and it's all about how tech workers can start to think about really just making money outside of tech. And, we all sort of think that we're going to have these jobs forever, but tech, software, things change constantly. The AI is always saying ever-evolving world of tech. And so it is sort of true. It's constantly changing, and sometimes it changes for the better, and sometimes it changes maybe at a macro level, changes for the better for the world, but not necessarily for the people that are working in tech. So you wrote this book. So tell us a little bit. I'd love to hear first just sort of like the reason behind the book. Maybe it's sort of self-explanatory, but I'd love to hear your thoughts about why you thought this book was necessary.
Now, the book was a bit of a wacky path for me. So what happened was my last job ended in June 2024, but I knew in April 2024 that they weren't going to renew my contract. So I started applying. I had some interviews in May. I got turned down. My job ended in June. I knew it was going to be a tough road. And so it happened in late July. I started writing a course. I figured, you know what, maybe lots of people are out of work. They're having trouble finding work. I mean, I'm on LinkedIn too much, and so my LinkedIn was full of people struggling so much, those brave enough to even say something about not having health insurance, not having money, not having, in some cases, a home, not finding jobs. And I thought, gee, maybe I could write a little helpful course. I'm a helpful person. Maybe I've got some good ideas for people. And my first thought is always, open up PowerPoint and write a course. And so I started writing a course, and so what some people do or don't know is that when I'm doing this type of writing and the longer form writing is I put on my headset and I open up Dragon Dictation, hashtag not sponsored, and I just dictate. And I found that within a week I had written 22,000 words.
Oh, wow.
And I had the most boring PowerPoint slides in the world. Like, they were the slides that nobody needed to see. And I said, okay, hold on. I don't think this is a course. I think this is a book. And meanwhile, I was also going through my own journey of what if this is that was my last job in tech? What if I can't get another one? I'm not guaranteed another job just because some people have heard of me, or I've had some good experience, or whatever's the usual, sense of confidence that, oh yeah, I should be able to get the next job. I've got boop, bop, beep. And I started feeling like, what if I don't get another job? What if what's in my bank account is all there is? And there were many dark thoughts that followed. And so the book kind of grew out of my own process in figuring out, what would I do if I couldn't find another tech job again at any level? Because sure, I'd love to be your vice president, but I also don't mind being your senior researcher. So it grew out of the process that I put myself through in kind of like self-coaching to figure out, what would I do next? Because I knew that a lot of the standard advice on career changing is kind of not relevant anymore. So for example, hey, why don't you just transition into being a product manager? Well, because when people want to interview a product manager, they want to see that you have managed and strategized and run a product from 0 to 1, from concept to launch. And while there are many product strategy things that I have done, I can't show that. I got advice, hey, Deb, you've done so many things that look like service design. You've done all the pieces that go into service design. Why don't you apply for service design jobs? Because when I go to the interview and they say, tell us about a service design project you've done, I technically don't have one. And so a lot of the common career advice for either transitioning and lateral movements, or follow your passion, or find your purpose, or as I like to say, fake ikigai, which I've got my graphic ready for. All of these things really sent me nowhere, or they sent me to unrealistic places. And part of the book, I even show what Claude AI suggested for me, which honestly made no sense. It was not actionable. And I even did the beta of Google's Career Dreamer, and I will happily give away to your audience that one of the careers it suggested for me was, and everybody swallow your beverage before I say this, water resource specialist.
What does that even mean? I guess like in communities where there are limited water resources, it's specializing.
It said because you're good at data analysis, you could be good at water resource specialist. And my thought was, I think we're and people even say to me, Deb, I'm a researcher or I'm a designer. What should my next career be? And I say, I can't possibly know, because I and my book don't take the approach of, you're a researcher and you know Excel and you can work with databases and you talk to people. Oh, well, then you should be a water resource specialist. Like, I don't look at people from the perspective of their skills. The book takes the approach of, I want to know who you are at your core, because that's where I started on my, so the book kind of formalizes the journey I forced upon myself to figure out what I'm going to do next. And then I said, wait a minute, I think I can give this a name and give this stages. And I ended up with 18 exercises in the books. And so the idea is, it is the workbook. There's nothing else for me to tell you. And so you can just go through this and try these exercises. Some of them are aimed at catharsis and dealing with burnout and anger and other emotions. And some of them are about planning what's next, which I call the Phoenix Flight Plan.
I like that.
That's the very long version of how the book came to be, because I knew that everybody was struggling, but I also saw that nobody wanted to talk about it. It's still very stigmatized. And I even have people saying to me, I can't press like on your posts. A potential employer will see I pressed like on a book called Life After Tech, and then I won't get the interview. And I'm thinking, do you really think that an employer gets 1,000 job applications and goes out and stalks not only your social media, but what you've pressed like on?
Right,
And,
exactly.
I can't say that never happens. It's probably happened. But does it usually happen? I doubt it. And that's how afraid we are. And I have the pioneer's problem. This is the first book on this topic. There are books about career change. There are books about your work doesn't have to be your passion. And nobody's talking about getting out of tech. And so I have that pioneer problem of I've got the first book on the topic and I'm trying to break the stigma.
I love that. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about like not being scared to like it. I was just thinking to myself like how silly that concept is, because the recruiters and managers barely have the time to even look at a case study. Are they actually going to go and scour
resume?
Right,
Right.
That's funny. Well, it's interesting too, because when I think about this, it's like, let's just say best case scenario. We mentioned this, we were talking before. People are talking about how much better the job market is getting, and they're making all these predictions. Let's say best case scenario, it does come back.
Right.
I think it's important for people to think about this at a macro versus micro level. Just because at a high level, at a macro level, the market is improving on average, that doesn't mean that everyone is going to have jobs. And I think that's something really important to think about. You can, I like to always say this, hope for the best, but also prepare for the worst. And that's why I think this is really important. Is sort of, I think about this as sort of life insurance, like literal life insurance, while you have a life. It's insurance for you to continue keeping that lifestyle that you might be familiar with and comfortable with. So, that's something interesting too. I don't know if you have any advice, or people thinking about this that are sort of like, I got a job now, I don't need to think about this. What do you say to people that are kind of in that position now that might feel comfortable, but still probably should be thinking about it?
Yeah. So thing one, you don't have to leave tech to read the book. You don't have to hate tech to read the book. I'm trying to stay in tech. You're trying to stay in tech. You don't have to be fleeing from tech to read the book. It's really just a general career change, introspection, and planning book. And so if I could get my next tech job tomorrow, I would still be doing all the things that's in the book, and I would still be trying to build up, to plan and build up my non-tech work. Because in the book, I also say it's like insurance, but I also say there's a very good chance that we're going to live longer than there is a tech job for us. Because I'm thinking about the longer term. Could I get a job this year or next year? Maybe. I think there's something out there for me. I'm feeling optimistic, and maybe you are too. But what if I don't get that job? Or what if I do get that job and then I'm in one of the rounds of layoffs? The layoffs are all too common. And even as you were saying before, many of us have been involved in multiple rounds of layoffs, or because I'm usually a contractor, I don't get laid off, but I do get the budget has been cut. We're not going to have you back, or we're not extending you. It's my own flavor of these things. And so to me, I'll tell you a story that a lot of people don't know about me, just because it will give you more insight into who I am. I am the only person I know who needed a prenuptial agreement during a bad divorce and had it. So I'm the person who likes the insurance policies. I'm the person who likes the plans. I'm the person who says, if people think I'm a big risk taker and they don't see all the calculation that happens behind the scenes. I had a prenuptial agreement, and then I divorced a loser, and I had the prenuptial agreement to protect me during a bad divorce, and I got out of that just the way I wanted to get out of that, thanks to a good lawyer. And so to me, this is similar. Whether we're done with tech or tech is done with us, and whether it's already happened or it's happening now, or it happens in 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, what is going to be next? And wouldn't it be smart to start thinking about that now and start planning it, even if you do nothing, but start planning it? But so far, we're finding in our new Discord community for Life After Tech that people get excited about some of their plans and they go, maybe I will start being a landscape architect, or maybe I will see if I can sell some of my music. Or like in the book, I talk about some of the directions I'm going outside of tech. And one of those directions was more ghostwriting and helping people plan their books and self-publish their books. And out of nowhere, my 84-year-old favorite college professor is trying to self-publish his new textbook because his publisher went out of business. And
wow.
His girlfriend of 52 years is emailing me on the side going, charge him, he can afford it. And so, okay, he hasn't paid me yet. We haven't signed a contract, but he started sending me some of his manuscripts and I started sending him some feedback. And he's like, wow, I love this. I might have a customer. And couldn't I do that as a side hustle, even if I get that next tech job? And so that's the message I want people to think about is, yes, I called it Life After Tech. I also called my previous book Customers Know You Suck. You know, I like some of these little conversation starters, but you don't have to leave tech. I'm a very planned edgy. So, you know, I'm a low risk taker. People go, "Oh my God, you left America, you moved to Italy." Yeah, I moved to Italy with 5 suitcases with everything back in America just in case.
Just in case, right?
You know, and so I think a lot of times people think like, whoa, Debbie, she's such a risk taker. And I think I look like that on the outside. And then people don't understand that that's actually not really who I am. I'm extremely calculated. I'm spreadsheet queen.
Yeah, I love that. You know, something that I have noticed, and I'm curious your thoughts here, and this is true even if you stay in tech, but designers seem to be married to this title of designer. And UX people seem to be married to this concept of UX. And, you know, it's funny because I've talked to people and I've considered, my wife is a product manager and we've had similar conversations. It's funny you mentioned product management. And my wife is like, oh, you could be a product manager. You could be a product manager. You could do that work. And I'm like, yeah, I could do the work, but is someone going to hire me to do the work?
Exactly.
That's not what I wanted to talk about. But what's interesting is I've had that conversation with other designers and they seem very adamant that they never want to be a product manager. I want to be a designer. I'm a UX designer. And we're sort of like married to this title, which I think limits us in a lot of ways. And it's funny because I remember you posted this on LinkedIn not long ago and people were commenting, oh, well, how can I apply UX to some other job? Or how can I apply UX to this other job? And they're still, even outside of tech, they're trying to figure out how do I apply UX to this? But that's not what you're talking about here. You're talking about separating that completely. And like you mentioned, landscape architecture, that's got, I guess, a little bit, you know, maybe user-centered or human-centered there. But most of this stuff, you know, like I'm thinking like voice acting for me, for instance, not at all related to UX design. So anyway,
I did voice acting school, so I can advise you on that.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I've taken a couple classes, but I need to take it more seriously to actually get into it more. But anyway, I'm just curious your thoughts there, that idea that we're sort of married to this title. And that kind of limits us if we are thinking about moving on. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's a great one. And I even got that question. I mean, you and I are recording this in mid-October 2024. I got this question yesterday because I'm now doing a Wednesday live stream on the Your Life After Tech YouTube channel where I'm taking questions for an hour, just like I do with my UX and CX channel on Tuesdays. And I'm getting questions about these types of things. And so, you know, we did a funny brainstorm on my Delta CX YouTube channel a few years ago. What should our titles be? And I said, let's play Mad Libs. Let's have like a adjective, some other sort of modifier, and then we'll end up with a noun, you know, where the noun or title is like designer, architect, and so on. And at the end of that, I half jokingly decided that the optimum title for me is strategic strategy strategist. You know, and so like that's my dream title, I think. And so when someone says, Deb, how do you feel if your title were going to be experienced strategist? I go, bring it on. Hey, Deb, what if your title were product analyst? Bring it on. Hey, Deb, what if your title were chief squishy squish? You know, I can't get wrapped up in this stuff anymore. I used to be more of the die on the hill of UX isn't UI, and we should be called architects and not designers, and we should be called this and that. And then I realized it doesn't matter because the work is out there, and luckily the work still exists. AI hasn't cannibalized it completely yet, but I don't love the term designer because I don't come from an art background. I come from psychology and behavior and reading people and observing people background. And so I never liked designer because then people thought I could draw and I can't. But
yeah, design comes with a lot of baggage, the word design.
it sure does. And so, and plus you have everyone's a designer. Okay, but not everyone's a good designer. So, including me, there are aspects of design I'm good at and aspects I'm not. And so I think that I would love people to let go of the titles. And I've been telling people in my community for at least a year, if you qualify for the job, apply for it. I don't care what it's called, because the titles are all over the place right now. The levels are all over the place right now. Senior, lead, principal, manager. Some of these are almost meaningless. I've seen head of UX where they tell you're going to be in Figma most of the day. That's not the head of UX.
Right.
So, I think that especially in a time where we're in trouble and tech work is in trouble and the outlook isn't good, the predictions aren't human-centered, I think that we should start to be more flexible about what these jobs are called, because if I qualify for the job and I can do it, I kind of don't care what it's called. What's it matter?
Yeah, exactly. I have this philosophy that whatever you call it, but call me what you want, but pay me what I'm worth. That's my mantra. And
I'm not even sure we can get pay me what I'm worth.
Well, that's true. Call me what you want. Just give me something so I can pay my bank the money that I
Exactly. Call me whatever is legal and appropriate, and give me at least what my monthly budget says I need, and we've got a deal. And I think that the downside is it's like telling someone to lower their standards. And when it comes to dating and finding your partner, I always tell people raise your standards. And that's hard for people because they get so many messages about lowering their standards. But I think when you see a job market like this, which is so unprecedented. I mean, especially anybody who's been in the workforce more than 10 years will tell you, I've never seen a job market like this in my life or career. And even through recessions and bad times and world events, we still haven't seen a job market that looks like this. We've never had to deal with salaries going down this much. We've never had to deal with 40 to 80% of jobs being fake. I mean, there's so many bizarre and AI taking our jobs. We didn't think that was coming just yet. We thought we had another 10, 20 years of AI kind of helping us on the side. And we're going to get to the point where it's going to be the Trojan horse, where AI helps you do your job. AI does some of your job. And then someone says, why are you here?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I kind of see a lot of correlation between people looking to get out of tech and people looking to get into tech, junior designers and things like that. And I've talked to a lot of junior designers who are just, again, stuck on the title, dead set. I need to be UX designer. I need to be UX designer. And I've seen, and this blows my mind, but I've talked to people who, instead of taking a job waiting tables, they have put their everything on a credit card while they look for a UX job. Right. And I kind of see it sort of the same way. It's like, now that I have a family and a mortgage and stuff for kids and all that, my kids need Legos, they're still going to want their Lego, but I have a family to support. And so it's interesting you mentioned not lowering your standards, but being willing to know when you have to just suck it up, get the job, keep your high standards, but continue to look for something better. And I think that's what a lot of, I don't want to denigrate people washing dishes or flipping burgers, but those are fine and noble things, but what's interesting is there's so many people who see those as below them, beneath them, that I refuse to take that, even if it's, however, let's say, I don't know, $20 an hour or whatever it is now, $15 an hour. If you have bills that you need to pay, you sometimes don't have a better option. Take it and then use that to finance your next job.
Yeah, a lot of the things you've been mentioning are in
Yeah.
chapter 9, but everybody be good. Don't skip to chapter
Yeah.
9. Read the stuff
Read the
that
whole
comes
thing.
before.
There you go.
But yeah, the idea that something is beneath us is something I think we have to reconsider, because one of the non-tech things that my husband and I are working on, and this is no longer a secret, is we want to open what here is called a campground. So for example, a place where people can stay the night if they have a camper or van or RV or tent or car or whatever, and here it's called a camping or a campground. In America you might say RV park, Britain might say holiday park, and we have a piece of land that's going to need work, and as soon as we get approval for it, I want to be out there with a shovel.
Yeah.
I want to be out there with a shovel, and I want to dig stuff up. Why? I need the exercise. Menopause sucks. And two, I don't have the money to hire everybody and then sit back and fan myself and be like, oh, darling, can you just excavate that a little bit more? I want to be out there with a weed whacker. I want to be out there and put myself into this land with my husband, and we're going to be out there. I just know we're going to be out there with a loud radio, and we're going to be singing and dancing, and we're going to be digging.
Yeah.
And it's going to be the silliest thing, but what is that beneath me? Do I, what is beneath who and why? And I think that it's also not beneath me to severely cut my expenses.
Right.
I mean, I've never thought of myself as a spendthrift. Anybody who's seen me in person knows I spend $10 on my outfit. It's just a wardrobe of Disney shirts, and as this one is as well. And so I think that we have to think about, look, it's been fun to make some of the tech money that some of us were paid, but where can we cut? We canceled some vacations. We reconfigured our honeymoon to cost us significantly less. And we just took that trip. It was delayed by a year anyway, so we've just had our anniversary, kind of. Well, we got married twice, so that's confusing. But anyway, to each other. But my point is, once we got out the spreadsheets, I'm a spreadsheet kind of chick, and we looked at stuff, we said, wow, there's a lot of opportunity to reduce things we've been spending money on. We immediately planted more than we'd planted years before, because again, this was April, May, June. We lived off our garden for some of the summer was the food that we grew. We just got 1.5 liters of olive oil from the olives that were on our tree.
Oh, it's amazing. And olive oil ain't cheap. That's expensive.
Olive oil ain't cheap,
yeah,
but still. And then how cool is that? I know where those olives came from.
Yeah.
So not everybody can do that. You're in an apartment on the 47th floor. You don't have an olive tree. That's fine. But my question is, what can we cut? And it was even harder for me because I don't get my nails done. Look at these terrible things. I don't get my nails done. I don't get my hair done. I'm not doing a lot of the things I'm not spending a lot on makeup. This is a AI filter on my camera. So I think, where do you cut stuff? And that starts making people nervous, and they start thinking, I've failed. And my thought is, you haven't failed. None of this is failure. Not being able to find a job, not failure. Being unsure about your resume or your interviews, not failure. Having to cut some of your expenses and try to make your life easier and your bank account go longer, not failure. All of these are smart. These aren't failures. And I wish that we could have more, everybody say it with me, empathy for people, and stop saying stuff to them like, oh, it's your fault you don't have a job, or, some of these terrible things I see people saying.
Yeah, this is what exactly the next thing I wanted to talk about was the money aspect, because I can tell you from my personal experience, but when I got laid off in December and I started doing consulting, this year was the first year where my salary has actually been significantly lower than it has the year before. So for the last 20 years, every year I've been making more and more and more and more, and I've really come to expect that. And so for us, one of the things I see, and I think maybe I'm curious what you think here, but what I've seen is the salaries, I don't know that they're inflated necessarily, but we have gotten so used to these giant tech salaries that anything outside of tech seems like, it's maybe beneath us because it's less salary. It's lower than what it was before. And I will say, from my personal view, lifestyle creep has been one of the biggest stressors in our life. And this is something I think, just like you said, I'm glad you brought that up because I wanted to talk about it. When I was looking at other things after because I've been fed up, like laid off twice. I even told my wife the last time I got laid off, I got laid off again. I am done. I'm going to get a job as a carpenter, or I'm going to do whatever.
I've got the beard. I'm going to work
exactly.
I'm going to work at a hardware supply store.
Yeah, exactly. So here's the thing. I started looking at that, right? And what I realized was I may make more 5 years from now. But for the next 5 years, I'm going to be making significantly less because a lot of this stuff I can't just... Exactly. And that was a big thing. What if we have to start over? And so I even looked at, I worked for GE Aerospace before, and they, fix, build and, jet engines and all these things. And I even looked into, what if I get a job as a maintenance tech and then I looked at it and I was like, oh, I got to go to school for 2 years. I got to get an associate's degree in mechanical, whatever it was. I don't even know the specific degree. I got to pay to go to school. I got to do that. It means I'm not working, and it's every day, and it's actually in there. It's not remote. I got to be in front of the engine. And then, so that was so scary to me. And I'm curious, what advice do you have for people that are looking at this and saying, if I start over, I am starting over. I am starting at the junior level. I might not even make intern level. I might have to cut my salary by $100,000. What do you say? How do you advise people to get past that? Because that is such a big mental hurdle.
Yeah, it's tough because the salaries went up because of supply and demand. A lot of these salaries went up when people wanted specialized tech workers in a world where there weren't as many university degrees and people hadn't gotten into it, and people took safer or different types of jobs. And so we were getting paid a lot more, say 10 or so years ago, because there were so few of us. And the salaries went up and to some pretty wild numbers. But now there's how many people looking for a job? There have been over 500,000 people laid off in the last couple of years, maybe 2 years, year and a half. And so now, of course, it's an employer's market, and the employers are literally running experiments with how low they can list a job for and still have people apply to it. And in fact, we're having a conversation in our Discord community right now for a job that actually a few of us tried to apply for and couldn't get through the crappy, completely evil application. But I just saw it reposted, and I swear it's for less money. And so now we're just being played with. And so I think we have to remember, one of the things people say to me is, I want to make that big money. How am I going to make that big money? And my question is, if you stay in tech, will you make the big money? Because I've been seeing some UX jobs that are paying, and I'm going to give some American numbers so Americans have a frame of reference, because everywhere outside of America, people are paid much less. It's a much different world out there.
It's crazy.
But for America, I'm seeing things that have senior and lead titles that are paying $65,000 a year, $85,000 a year. But yet, here's guy we all know on LinkedIn, who I won't name. Just the other day, he's posting, here's the results of a survey of what you should be paid at various levels, and it was twice that. And my thought was, you are helping to sustain an unrealistic expectation. Yes, there are still a few tech companies paying hundred or hundreds of thousands of dollars for these roles. I assume they're renting your soul, but I don't know for sure. But a lot of the jobs that I'm seeing come down to $30, $40, $50, $60 an hour, when many of us were making 100, 120. We were making more, especially in America, X years pre-pandemic in the bigger cities. I think I want people to reset their expectations. No, you don't have to go out and flip burgers or mow lawns, or maybe you do, but you're not guaranteed that if you do find a next job, that it pays what your last job made. I have a job interview today for a job I am genuinely interested in, but it pays less than my last job paid.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is the thing that I struggle with too. And, I mean, we made the mistake. I don't know if it's a mistake. Well, we bought a house that we could afford at the time, got laid off, and like I said, doing consulting, I'm not making nearly as much. And when I think about all this, like, part of it, and I just talked with Hong Shu last week about mental health, and when you're burnt out, when you're stressed out, it's so hard to do anything. And getting stressed out and being under pressure makes it hard to job hunt, because you just, you're like, I can't do this. It's just so overwhelming. It makes it hard to learn a new skill. I mean, all this stuff. And so, like, when we talked about this, when Hung and I talked, but like having that lifestyle creep to me has been one of the biggest barriers to exploring another role, because I have to make the salary unless I sell my house, which, is so hard to do. Moving is thousands and thousands of dollars unless I did it myself. I'm 42. I got 2 kids. Like, I can't lift a box
But
anymore.
you're a kid.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess it feels right. I don't feel like a kid. Moving and stuff, I mean, it's so expensive. If we moved back to New Orleans, it would cost us, I saw the bill when GE moved us up here, and it was like $20,000, $30,000. I'm like, I can't even, there's no way I could pay that much money to move back.
They were overcharged. I've done moves for much less than that. I used to move every 8 months. I used to move every 8 months in America. Yeah. I feel like I know what it costs to move, and it ain't that.
We had too
so
much
don't
crap
be afraid of that.
Well, but like what I'm saying is it's so hard. It's like it'd be great to move back and our parents can help with this and that, but we just can't. So anyway, but to me that lifestyle creep has just added so much stress.
You could make that work out. It would just be an initial outlay of cash that you're concerned about. But then the question is, can you run a spreadsheet that shows, would you make that money back? Would you save that money over time by being in a place with lower expenses, better health care, a lower cost of living? And so I understand that, when I lived in America, I used to move every 8 months. I have driven every size U-Haul truck. I have paid moving companies. I've had things in storage. I've tried everything you can think of. And I know that it can be thousands of dollars to move. I get that. But the question is, what can you save? And I also want to mention that this is kind of American and kind of cultural, because what I find is that people in other cultures, not every culture, but people in many other cultures outside of America, are not pushed as hard about leaving a family home. Whereas in America, if you haven't left your parents' house and bought a condo or a home of some sort by a certain age, you're considered a loser. Yeah. When I started dating my now husband, and he was 40 or whatever he was, 40 when we met, and I was telling a friend in California that, he's on this little piece of land in the country, and his mom's up in the family house, and he's technically in what used to be the family office, which we live in. And my friend was like, what a loser. He still lives with his mom. And my first thought was, is he a loser? And then of course, once I learned a little bit more, I learned the sense of community that exists here.
Right. I love that.
We scoff at multi-generational living. When I lived outside of San Francisco, you often saw grandchildren, parents, grandparents living in the same house, and you make fun of those people, but why? They're doing it right. I'm sure I'm on a little piece of land, and that's worked out well, but my husband owns it free and clear because his father bought it in 1979. Yeah. And so we forget what it's like to have something of value that we're not paying top dollar for every day, because we're told to go out and buy the biggest house you can. In America, we get a lot of these messages, especially because your retirement is wrapped up in it. The idea is you're going to have such a big, beautiful house somewhere that when you're 60-something, you're going to sell it, your kids are out of the nest, and you're going to downsize to something microscopic or an RV, and you're going to have all that money in the bank. But nobody stops and thinks about how much life is really costing them while living in this home, especially when you factor in the insurance, not the insurance, the interest on a 15 to 30-year loan. That's insane. Interest is off the charts, and we're not doing the math on this. And so I think that I would like people to be less afraid to move to other places. It's scary now because of return to office. Companies are saying, I don't want you to live where you want to live. I want you to live where I say you live. And we've got a whole chapter on that in the book about what is a sense of belonging and where do you feel like you belong? Because it may or may not be the city your company wants you to live in. And so I think that we have to think about these things. Some of them are math puzzles, but we've got to look at the math more thoroughly because the amount of money people are burning on the interest of that mortgage and other stuff, it's like if you moved to a smaller place and maybe in a different city and you had support because you lived with or near family, okay, it's not the American dream we heard about, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. The other thing too is in this. Well, it depends where you live, I guess. But property tax is just money you pay every month out the window. Like we bought our house
that's
here.
all we pay.
Yeah, we bought our house here and outside of Cincinnati in Kentucky, and we bought the house, and then what we didn't realize we paid for like the first year or two, and then they reappraised it, and like our monthly note went up like $800. Just from property tax because they reappraised it. And so that's $800 that is just gone. It's just gone. I mean, I guess you get public services with the money, but that isn't money that's going into your retirement account. It's not going into your savings account for a runway if you do get laid off. So, right. We thought a lot about, do we keep this house? And it's been to me, that's like one of the biggest stressors though, which makes anything else so much harder. It's like I can't even, I don't even know a better way to say it. It's just like I can't even. But I know that so many people are struggling with that, and I love that you bring that kind of stuff up in the book.
Sorry, that's my dog squeaking.
Oh no, it's all right. It's okay. Yeah, one of the things that's kind of interesting, I just think of, and I hate to say this because I don't want to be seen as like a gatekeeper or something like that, but I get a lot of people asking me, junior designers that are looking to get into UX. And they say, how do I get into UX? And the first question I have is, do you really want to get into UX now? Like, is that really something that you want to do? And so I guess my question for you here is, again, I don't want us to come off as gatekeepers pushing people out or anything, but I'm curious from your perspective, if someone were coming to you and asking you today about getting into tech, knowing that so many people are trying to get out of tech, what advice would you have for somebody who's just dead set on getting that UX job or software job or whatever, and they're just sort of starting out? Do you have advice? Do you tell them no, run away, go get a job as a carpenter, go join a union, go to trade school and join a union? Or, do you still encourage them? Again, I'm curious what your thoughts are. Maybe it's a personal question, but I'm curious what you think.
No, I'm happy to talk about it. I mean, I wrote a book on trying to career coach and help people. So let's talk about all these things. But first of all, let's remember that we're not gatekeepers. There are loud voices on LinkedIn who like to pretend that if I think not everybody should get into UX design, I must be some sort of gatekeeper. And those people are just gaslighting and creating divisions. The reality is that I don't have the power to not get you a job. I'm not blocking you from getting a job. And even if I think you shouldn't get a UX job, you don't have to take my advice. So I am not your gatekeeper, and I've already written the article on who is. But the reality is that when people ask me, should I still work in UX? I really want to get into UX. I say, look, now is a great time for some self-awareness. Maybe go through the exercises in the book. And because the exercises can certainly still end up with tech work. I'm not saying you have to cross it off your list, but if I dreamed of something and I wasn't able to find work in it, I have to, in my opinion, come up with some sort of deadline for myself where if I'm not getting some sort of work in this area, paying work, not the free work we're seeing advertised more and more. I even did this with voice acting. After going to voice acting school, I said, look, I'm going to try to get some voice acting roles. I'm going to really put the effort in. But if this doesn't seem to get me anywhere after a few months, I think I'm just going to put it on the side and make it a hobby. And that's what I ended up doing. And I think that the way that you can keep something from being a money pit or an effort pit or something else is to give yourself some sort of deadline. People give us deadlines at work. Give yourself a deadline. deadline. You could say, look, UX is my dream. I really want to get into it. I've been applying for 6-8 months now. I'm going to give myself 3 more. Okay, it's the holiday season, not a lot of hiring going on. I'm going to give myself till the end of February. I'm going to give myself some sort of time, but do yourself a favor. Read my freaking book and start planning for what might be. People, it is not an expensive book, and it's much shorter than all my other books. I finally did it, everybody. I wrote a shorter book. Couldn't believe it. I did it. Have a plan for what if. I always want to say auditioning because I come from music. I'm interviewing for various tech jobs right now. I have no idea what my chances of getting any of them are. It doesn't feel very secure the way it used to be. So I make no assumptions that I'm going to get that job. I'm still working on the campground. I'm working on writing and helping people with their writing and books. I just started last night a course. I am upskilling. I am upskilling in a non-tech area.
Oh, wow.
I got a last minute discount on a course, and I am following where my own exercises led me, and I am going to upskill because this is an area that is still hot. It is in the corporate world. It's still hot, but it's the type of job where they want you to have a certain certification. You pretty much can't be hired or get consulting type freelance work if you don't have a certain certification. It's probably going to take me almost a year to go through the courses and get the certification. And I assume when all is said and done, it's probably going to cost me $5,000 or $6,000.
Wow.
And so what I've done is I paid for the first half, and I said, let's see how it goes, because it's 2 courses. And I just started the first one. Last night was orientation. I can't tell you how it's going yet, but
right on.
My thought is, well, thank you. My thought is, I have a good feeling about this, and I'm going to try it. And if the first course doesn't feel right to me, I'm not going to go to the second. I will have said, okay, so much for that $2,400 that I didn't feel like I had to spend. But I think there's potential here, and I'll reassess it closer to Thanksgiving to see if I want to continue with the second level. But I'm basically trying to figure out what can I do from how my exercises ended up with the directions I want to go in, and what can I do that costs me as little as possible. And if I do have to pay for something, what is it? And can I find a good education at a discount? And I got very lucky that someone I trusted said, ooh, you're signing up like 10 minutes before the course starts. We're happy to give you a discount and have another student. So you never know what you, and that's the network. That's the real networking. People say, oh, I need to network more. Look, I've got 42,000 LinkedIn followers. I've got 3,000 people in my Slack community. I have 7,000 people following me on Medium. If I wanted to be a cynical person or an ego head, I could say, where's my job?
Mm-hmm.
Right. I have this community. I've built up this brand. People know me. That would be arrogant, and I'm not that person. But I want to make sure people understand that it's not like, oh, if only I networked more or posted on LinkedIn more, I would have the job. I'm posting on LinkedIn. I don't have the job. I have a good resume and experience. I don't have the job. Most people find me likable. Mm-hmm. Some don't. That's fine. I don't have the job. And so, I'm not going to work with them, and that's fine. And so I want to remind people you didn't do this to yourself, and it's not like if you just did a little bit more networking, or you just had that resume redone, or you just posted more to LinkedIn, or you just pressed clap, clap, clap on someone's LinkedIn post, wow, you would get the interview or the job. And I actually saw a post recently in a community of laid off people from someone who wrote, can someone please look at my LinkedIn posts? I think they're really good, and I don't know why I'm not getting interviews. They actually thought that posting on LinkedIn would naturally attract job interviews to them. And okay, I remember years ago when I used to post stuff on LinkedIn and people would consider hiring me because they were like, oh, wow, we need someone like you. But now ain't.
Yeah, well, it's funny because I mentioned my interview with Hong. We talked about this, and I'm not nearly as prolific as you. I have 17,000 followers, and the consensus, maybe, I don't know, consensus may be wrong with it. The prevailing logic, a year ago is the more followers you get, the more likely you are to get, noticed and therefore get a job. I got 17,000 followers, which is not as much as many. That doesn't help me at all. That's never gotten me a job, and so
and
I
LinkedIn
think,
is killing all of our posts in the algorithm.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless I have a post go wild, a lot of my posts are seen by 1,500 people. Now, some people go, oh, I'd kill to have my post seen by 1,500 people. But for 42,000 opting in, 1,500 is very low. And I feel like I'm failing on LinkedIn, and I feel like LinkedIn is failing me. So I don't want people to think like, so one of my best friends hasn't been active on LinkedIn in years, and we were talking about LinkedIn, and he went out and he wrote a post, and 8 people saw it. Well,
yeah,
you can't control that.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, it's really interesting you bring that up, and I think like that's the prevailing logic is go online, post stuff, and then LinkedIn to me recently has just become a mess of just everybody posting because everyone's been told they're supposed to post, and
yeah.
We talked last time you were on critical thinking and all that stuff. Like, really think about that. Like, are you actually helping yourself? And I don't know where I was going with this, but yeah, it's one of those things where I don't know. We're just sort of, I think people are just so scared. They're just trying anything at this point, and I think that's probably what it is more than anything else. I think if people, it's funny because we mentioned this again. If you felt comfortable in a job, I would love to see like the numbers on LinkedIn when someone gets a job and feels comfortable, how much their LinkedIn usage decreases. And I wonder if so many people are just on LinkedIn constantly posting, trying to quote unquote network because they are afraid of either losing a job or not getting a job. And, it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I don't know how much data there is, probably none to back that up. But yeah, it's maybe just a symptom of the job market now. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a symptom of I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say or where to get noticed, to stand out, to be the candidate that someone's interested in. I mean, it's a variation of a question I've been asked for years, which is how do I stand out as a candidate? And so people think, oh, I'll need to post something on LinkedIn. And, the posts that are always so strange to me are when I see a post that says like, I've never posted on LinkedIn before and I'm not sure why I would do it, but someone said go for it. So now I'm posting, and my thought is, what are you doing right now? This sounds very strange. You wouldn't walk into a building and announce that. So I think we have to use our time wisely. And I think that might mean less time on social media sites. I've been telling people, if you spend a few minutes on a social media site and you're scrolling or you're reading, and you don't start feeling better about your day, yourself, your life, if it's not lifting you up, close it. Move on. Mm-hmm. Open up a funny YouTube video. Do something that's going to be some sort of better influence on your day. It's hard.
Yeah. I love the Marie Kondo. Does it bring me joy? It's like we think about it. I think in terms of stuff, physical stuff. But I think it's the same in anything digital, it could be the software that we use, the interactions we have. It could be the people in our lives. Do they bring me joy? No, you're out. So, I don't know. I think that's something that a lot of people kind of don't think about. And it's interesting. Like I even wonder, talking about life after tech, how many people stay in tech because they enjoy it? And how many are just there because they're making a lot of money and know they probably won't make as much in another job? And
that's very true as well. And another conversation that I've had with people, which I brought into the early chapters of the book, was a lot of people saying, oh, but I have to find my passion. And I go, yeah, find your passion and make it your hobby. Hands up. How many of you right now want to hear me sing? And how many of you want to pay to hear me sing? Nearly nobody. If I charged you to hear me sing, that number would dive immediately, even though I'm a classically trained opera singer. But my point is, just because something is my passion doesn't mean it's going to be a good moneymaker. And when people say, oh, but I should really be finding my passion and following my calling, and I go, tell me about your last tech job. And they go, I had to optimize an e-commerce flow so people would would buy more. I go, yeah, was that your passion?
Did you really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was
Yeah.
that your passion? Was that fulfilling your life calling? No, most of the jobs we've had, even the good jobs, were probably not your passion. For some people say to me, yes, I'm working in healthcare. I know I'm making a difference for patients. Okay, look, you're excluded. But I would say most, certainly not all, but most people can look back at their career and say, yeah, I guess I haven't done a lot of things that really are my passion. I remember doing a great project for the portal for home repair people doing home warranty repairs. Hey, I did a great job on that and I got paid. But guess what? Not my life calling. Not my passion, not my mission, not my fake ikigai, which turns out to be fake ikigai, not any of these things, but it's something I could be paid for. And I want to remind people that work is a transaction. You do a thing and someone gives you money to do it. And it doesn't have to fill your heart with joy. It's great if you don't hate it. It's great if you like it, but it doesn't have to be your life's passion.
Yeah. That's like just incredible parting advice, I think. And that's something like I just keep going back to. My job is a paycheck and it is a way for me to finance the things that I actually enjoy. And I love that you bring, and this is something else I think is worth maybe noting. But when we think about, the ultra rich, billions of dollars, they very rarely make all their money from one thing. They diversify. They have multiple revenue streams. And you just brought this up. I think it's worth highlighting. Figuring out how to diversify your income so that if one of those income streams go away, you don't lose it all. And you can then get a job maybe making a little bit less and still have that lifestyle that you're accustomed to or you're comfortable with, without having to sacrifice.
Yes, that's
too
also
much.
In chapter 9. I get the feeling you just read chapter 9. You're like, open the book. Chapter 9 looks good. I'm just going to read that.
I have been thinking a lot about this for the last year and a half. So these are things that I've just been thinking about for a long time. And I'm just so glad that you're bringing it up. Before we get out of here, Debbie, any closing thoughts, anything we didn't talk about that you think is worth highlighting for those that are maybe thinking about life after tech?
Yeah, just a reminder that life after tech is also life during tech, and to put on your own oxygen mask first. You're not great to yourself or others when things feel this dark, and you've got to find the ways to turn it around. Some of that's going to be community. We've got the Life After Tech Discord, which is totally free to join. Certainly there's the book. I'm doing more coaching if people want to talk to me for any particular reason. The first one's free and then I do charge. But I find that people feel really dark until they compare notes with somebody. Go compare notes with somebody. Go have those conversations, and you will find you are far from alone. You're far from alone in being frustrated or angry or burnt out or afraid. This is not one person's problem right now, and you didn't do this to yourself. This is the system failing all of us. This is greed failing all of us, because these companies have the money to hire us and pay us, and they've just decided, nah, let's keep it. Yeah, we're making record profits, but let's cut lots of people and overwork the ones who stay. So you didn't cause this, you didn't break it, you probably can't fix it. Save yourself and put your oxygen mask on first. And even if you don't act on a life after tech plan, have the plan. Make the plan. Think about what's next, and think about the diversification. I ended up with 4 areas of work that are outside of tech. So that would be tech plus 4. And I've prioritized them, and I'm working on trying to build these things up, some more slowly than others. And that means in a year, I'm going to have a very different story for everybody than my story now. Our stories are evolving, but we get to write the stories. And so, I take control of the things you can control. These are some of my key messages.
Well, we'll have to have you back on in a year and see how it's gone. And
live from the campground.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. Yeah. We'll take a get the family. We'll come hang out. We'll take our tent, pitch a tent over
Please do.
Where was it again? Where do you live?
Yeah, I'm on
Sardinia?
the island of Sardinia.
Sardinia, that's right. Okay.
Yeah,
that's
conveniently
right.
located between Barcelona and Rome in the sea.
That is awesome. That's amazing.
It's not bad.
It's beautiful there. I am totally jealous. All right, so Debbie, it's been amazing having you on. I think this is just such an important topic.
Yes.
I often tell myself if someone asked me not long ago what I would tell 20-year-old Jeremy in school, what would you do? I would say, go to trade school, join a union, become a carpenter, join a union, and you probably never have to worry about a job again in your life. So anyway, I don't know. That might not be for everybody, but I don't know. One day I'll get that coffee and beignet stand
The first we just put out a Your Life After Tech podcast, and episode 1 is a guy I'm connected to on LinkedIn who was a designer of different types and a UX designer, and after he got laid off for the nth time about a year ago, he was like, F it, and now he's a handyman and home renovator full time.
I love that. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Office Space, but I sometimes feel like Peter
Everyone
Gibbons.
but me.
Yeah, well, in the movie, he's a software company, and he gets fed up with software life, and then at the end, he becomes a construction worker, and they're like, his buddies are like, hey, we got a job, you can come back and work for this software company. He's like, nah. He's like, I work with my hands, I'm outside all day, life is good. I don't need a software job. And that was when did that come out? 90-something. I don't know, long time ago. So anyway, Mike Judge was onto something 2 decades ago, I think.
I know a lot of people see that movie as prophetic. I haven't seen it, but that's mostly because I don't like to watch movies, which is a separate story.
Yeah.
But
it was a good one. It was one of my favorites.
But yes, everybody, I think the main thing is plan and take action. Don't wait for something to happen. It might happen and it might not happen, and you've got to be ready for both scenarios.
I love it. All right, Debbie, so we have got, last time you were on, we had 5 questions where everybody got to hear your favorite books and favorite podcasts and all that stuff. This time, instead of 5 questions, I've got a bunch of completely ridiculous, absurd this or that questions. And so everybody can listen and get to know you a little bit better via these completely dumb this or that questions. Look at the pup. What's the pup's name?
This is Olivia, and she's crying because she refused to eat her dinner before, and now she's hungry. And
Olivia,
I have
so
her
cute.
daughter here too, so yeah.
Oh wow, I love hound dogs. Is a beagle mix? He looks like a beagle. Is that a purebred? Probably. It looks like a mix.
That was one of the things I did this summer. I wrote a children's book about my dogs.
Yeah, I love that.
We've got 5.
Yeah, we'll throw that in the show notes. Canetti Perfetti.
Thank you. Yes, it's Italian for perfect puppies.
Perfect puppies.
It's in English though. It's for kids.
Yeah, right on. Cool. I'll have to check it
Okay.
out. All right.
This
We're
or
gonna
that.
go just first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think too hard about it. They get progressively sillier as we go. First up, pen or pencil?
Pen.
All right. Dot graph or lines?
Blank paper.
Just blank. Okay. I like the dots because I cannot draw a straight line to save my life. All right. Whiteboard or chalkboard?
Whiteboard.
All right. You probably do a lot of flying. Aisle or window seat?
Aisle for sure.
Yeah, I like aisle. I got to get up and go to the bathroom. I don't want to bug anybody.
Totally.
All right. Yeah. Would you rather be a master at painting or a genius at math? Left or right?
As someone who is terrible at painting and damn good at math, I'm going to go with math.
There you go. All right.
It has served me well.
All the spreadsheets. I love it. All right. Big party or small gathering?
Small gathering for sure. Despite my personality, I actually am an introvert by definition.
I don't think I would have expected that. All right.
Exactly.
Would you rather have a car that can fly or a personal submarine that can go underwater?
Definitely flying car. I got to see where my dogs have escaped to.
Oh, that's a good call. All right. High tech or low tech in general?
High tech, but not AI. I'm not a big AI adopter yet. So high tech outside of AI for late 2024.
Yeah, I don't know what it is about me, but I have been itching to find a dumb phone that I can just switch and just, get off of the stupid notifications and all that stuff. The only thing keeping me is the group messages. No dumb phones do group messages, which drives me crazy. They do a weird thing. Anyway, all right. Sneakers or flip-flops?
Neither. I am usually in hiking sandals.
Oh, all right. That's like a mix of both, kind of. I like it. Yeah, you got the sole of a sneaker with the openness of a flip-flop. What is worse, laundry or dishes?
Dishes.
Okay. When sending out an out-of-office notification, do you say OOO or OOTO? Did you ever do that?
Neither?
Really? I guess, you've always worked remotely. I had a friend, I always would do OOO like out of office, when like on your invite, like we
Yeah,
would
I think I would do
send an invite.
but I usually work through vacations, and so
Oh man.
I think I've had one out of office on in the last like 5 years. So bad news, everybody. I'm in the office.
That's funny. I used to have a friend of mine at work, and we would all send each other invites when we were out of office, so people would know, hey, I'm out. Don't send me a thing, and I would filter them in my Outlook to turn them off because I had 20 people on my team, and I would just basically every day I would have just like hundreds of invites. Everybody's out of town, and so I had one colleague who would send different variations just to get through my filters. He would space O or space TO, and I would always be anyway just to mess with me. It was funny. All right, do you like big teams or small teams?
Of what?
At work, big teams or small teams at work?
Gosh, I don't mind either. I mean, my last job, I had 57 stakeholders, and I didn't mind that. So I don't know.
Whichever one pays you the most.
Yeah, I'm not hassled. I'm flexible.
Right. That's fair. Okay. When presenting, do you like an intimate crowd or a big auditorium?
I'm fine with any of those things. I mean, I was a music major and performer at school, so I don't mind talking to a small group of 8 people, and I don't mind talking to a couple of thousand. Like, yeah, that's all fine.
All right. This is where we get really ridiculous here. Would you rather have every project managed by a cat or a sentient AI with a really bad attitude? Just
cat.
Sort of like a cat. Just like, no AI. Get it out of here. I can pet the cat.
I'm not happy with AI right now, so I'm going with cat.
There you go. I like it because you could just, and they're happy if they start purring, and then you're doing something right. Would you rather have all of your interfaces audibly narrated by Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
That's especially tough for me because I grew up with Fran Drescher's accent, and
oh, really? Wow.
I had to spend a lot of time losing that accent. And though Gilbert Gottfried's isn't that far away, I always think of when they had him do the voice of Clippy, I see you are writing a letter. I guess I'd go with Gilbert Gottfried, though I prefer his impression of Jerry Seinfeld. I don't know if you ever heard that.
I've ever seen that. No, that's got to be hilarious.
He did a perfect impression of Jerry Seinfeld because he wouldn't do the scratchy thing with his voice. He would just do, hey, have you ever noticed something?
Yeah, I've
good.
heard that his Gilbert Gottfried, his classic voice was not real, and he just did that was all just his sort of stage voice. But I don't know. I kind of don't want to listen to his normal voice because I feel like it'll ruin it for me. All right, this one's tough. Would you rather have your work critiqued by Gordon Ramsay or Simon Cowell, both equally mean?
Yeah, I guess if they're equally mean, what's the difference?
That's true. Both British accents. Yeah, both. I don't know. One maybe is more insulting. I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess either one, right?
I don't know. I think probably Simon Cowell, just because Gordon Ramsay seems to lose his shit, kind of randomly, and I think Simon Cowell just wants you to feel bad about yourself, but Gordon Ramsay wants to break you into pieces.
He gets very angry. Yeah, I don't know. Again, I don't know how serious. I wonder how much of that is for show, for TV, for reality.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows? All right, last one. You can perform user research, but you can only do it using interpretive dance or haiku poems.
Poems for sure. Yeah, I'm a bad dancer. Yeah, I'm one of the many things people may not know about me. I've got rhythm. Terrible dancer. People get injured.
I wouldn't have expected that.
I'm going with poems. Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, I think this one is. I would love to see an improv skit where someone tries to do one of these. This would be just a hilarious team building improv thing. I'd love to see somebody try that. If you try that at home, please take a video, send it to me. I would love to see it. All right, Debbie, that is all I've got for you today. Before we get out of here, give yourself a plug. Let everybody know where they can find you, find the book, and all that stuff.
Yes. I used to say add me on LinkedIn, but LinkedIn's not going to show you my posts. So for the love of the God of your choice, please, add me somewhere where the algorithms are kinder or there are none. So I've been asking people to head on over to lifeaftertech.info. Not only is there information on the book and how to get the book and digital, print, audiobook, but also there's a page called Resources. And Resources will dump you on our free Discord Discord community, our free Patreon, our mailing list, lots of ways, and the new YouTube channel, and even our new podcast. So lots of ways to hear from us without an algorithm getting in the way. So yeah, I would love to see people subscribing to the new YouTube channel, Your Life After Tech. But really, if you follow in a no algorithm zone like Patreon or Discord or the mailing list, I'm gonna send out weekly digests so that you just can't miss stuff, because I post to LinkedIn and nobody sees it, and people are going, "Oh, you have a book?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, I've been posting every day for 4 weeks about my book." LinkedIn. So please, wherever we connect, preferably less algorithms, no algorithms.
I'm with you.
Let's
totally
get
with you.
closer and come ask me questions. Come be part of the community.
All right, so check out lifeaftertech.info. We'll add all that stuff to the show notes. Debbie, thank you so much for coming on. This is such an important topic, and I hope some people got some stuff out of this today. Well, all right, y'all, that's it for Debbie and me for today. I hope we helped to shed a little bit of light on whether or not, getting out of tech is right for you. Everybody's different. Some people might be jumping at the opportunity. Some of you might be scared to death. I know it's a very difficult thing. But you remember, like Debbie said, just thinking about life after tech doesn't mean you have to get out of tech. You can still hang out. You can still listen to Beyond UX Design. Nothing wrong with that. But have you tried to get out of tech? Have you thought about getting out of tech? I'd love to know what types of jobs you're thinking about getting. How are you thinking about paying the bills? Let me know what you think on LinkedIn, or shoot me an email at hello@beyonduxdesign.com. I would love to hear from you.